All right, welcome to Free Your Space. I'm Dr. Michelle Robin, and for those of you that don't know, I'm a novice at webinars, and so I'm actually pushing my own comfort zones doing this with you. So thanks for being patient with me. We're going to have some fun this afternoon, and I really believe that this is what has transformed my journey, mind, body, spirit, looking at freeing my space on all those levels. And to top it off, about 3 years ago, I really set an intention of living a simple and consistent life. Yes, I'd done a lot of work before that on my head space and my heart space from what was holding me back from being who I was designed to be, which is a loving, kind person, guiding people and celebrating people on their journey. So thanks for joining me today. I know that you're going to get one or two nuggets out of this that will help you transform your life. And if you want to join us on our 21-day challenge, I encourage you to do that. So let's get started. The learning objectives for today are really going to talk about awareness. I really think if you're transforming your life, you really want to get aware that everything you say, everybody around you creates energy. And how do you help shift that? Also, to recognizing that every day you do debits and credits, whether it's in the way you're thinking, the way you're moving, the environment. And so I really think that debits and credits are huge. So I want you to think about that as you lay down to sleep at night. If you're not putting more credits into your wellness account and you're taking out more debits, you're going to go bankrupt. And it is really hard to recover from bankruptcy financially, as well as from a mind, body, spirit perspective. I work with people all the time on that. So let's try to avoid going into bankruptcy. You're going to know what credits and debits are in your mind, body, and environment. So here we go. Let's talk about your space. I don't know about you. I recently, over the last 3 years, decided to sell a big house. It was a gorgeous house on great land. The problem was I was working so much that I was not getting a chance to enjoy it. And so I got the opportunity to sell it to a fabulous family who was their vision to live in the country and really work the land. And I'm so grateful for that. But during that time, I was able to really shift and go through everything I had. I do have to tell you a little secret. I've never really liked clutter either. I had never really liked clutter. And so I've been pretty mindful, but I've become even a little bit more of a minimalist because I just don't want to be owned by stuff. I've watched too many people spend their whole life acquiring stuff and then spend their last decade getting rid of it and really being owned by their stuff. So I'm really have made that turn. I'm super excited about it. In my case, I actually right-sized a little bit too much, went from living on 20 acres and several thousand square feet of house, 6,000 square feet, and then moved to a smaller apartment. And you'll hear me talking about all or none, and I have my own issues with that. And so I kind of overcorrected. In the last 9 months, I've got the opportunity to move to something kind of mid-range and really loving my home space, but also being mindful about not adding too much clutter to it. So remember that your environment is huge. And I want you to start to really not love your stuff, but if you're going to have stuff, make sure it's giving you good, positive juju. So we want to talk about that. Your body, for sure. As a wellness practitioner, I'm continually talking to people about listening to their body and the stuff that's around them and the chemicals they're using on their body, the food they're putting in, that it really is serving a purpose to help them live the life that they were designed to live. And of course, the mind. And I think this is the magic to really being well. If you follow me at all on Facebook, I just posted 50 quotes that have inspired my first 50 years. And I want to tell you, I'm constantly trying to put light inside because we all have a dark side. And whichever way you feed it, if you feed more dark thoughts with negative news and negative people and negative thoughts about yourself, or you feed in positive things happening, positive stories about people, positive truths of who you really are, positive people, you'll start to grow that side. And so I've spent my whole life really working on growing that positive side to overcome some of the dark side. And then as we go into your space, just kind of take a deep breath, because for some of you who like to have a lot of stuff, or you maybe live in clutter, this could maybe make you, having trouble taking a deep breath, thinking what some of you might be going through. So give yourself some grace. We're all on a journey. And if you make movement from here to here, you don't have to go all the way to here. You're just chunking it down, getting to where you're trying to get to. So take a deep breath. Here we go. Once again, energy is in everything. I don't know about for you. When I walk into a room, I could feel the energy, and I actually can feel it in people's hands. I could see it in their heart, in their eyes, and I can feel safe in some place. So be mindful about that as you're walking into places, even your own home, your own bedroom. Do you feel safe, and do you feel comfortable? And if you don't, how do you start to change that? And energy has a feeling. And so, like you said, you see me moving my hands, I can feel it, and I know you can too, especially if you really tune into that. The energy of your space. So what makes you comfortable and what drains you? I don't know about you. When I was living out in the country, once again, it was a beautiful space, and I loved the sunsets, but I'd walk in and I would look at the space and think about everything that needs to be done instead of thinking about how glorious it is. And so now with my new smaller space, I'm able to say, okay, how do I start to manage this? So think about the stuff you have. Does it give you comfort, or does it leave you feeling drained? I want you to really love the stuff you have. I'm a little bit of it, like I said, I'm a little bit of a minimalist, and just spent some time with Courtney Carver. Hope you got a chance to listen to her podcast this week. And she's doing some wonderful things talking about her space and the small amount of things she has. All right. So what I want you to do is right now is maybe picture yourself in one of your favorite spaces, whether it's your bedroom, your office, maybe even looking at your phone. I'm notorious. People will say, I called you and I left you a message, and I'm good at returning those. And they'll say, but you got that text like 3 months ago. And I'm like, I don't keep my texts. Some of my friends, they can look at the text I sent them a year ago. I'm not that person, because to me, it kind of clutters my phone up. Or if you see me and you look at my emails, I very seldom have more than 100 emails in my inbox, because it makes me anxious, because I don't want to drop the ball on something. So picture that and see what it looks like for you, and does it feel like it's serving you? In my case, I tend to have a little bit more of a messy desk. And so I work at trying to know where everything's at and keep that organized. And we'll talk about the headspace that goes with that for me in Mind Your Space, on what I'm learning more and more as I'm thinking about freeing my own space to the next level. All right. What debits the energy? Here's things that could, not always, but that could kind of take that health account, your space account, down more to a negative, kind of in that bankruptcy. A lot of clutter. Whether it's like clutter in your closet. I don't know about you. In my closet, I used to have 3 sizes: the size when I was skinny, the size when I was just about right, and the size when I was a little bit heavy. And now I kind of have just about right size. Yes, I like the skinny clothes, but I'm not sure I'm willing to work that hard to have that and deal with that stress on a day-to-day basis of what it takes to really be that size 6. And so I'm just trying to say, okay, what can I live with at this average weight? And so I would encourage you to think about what's cluttering up your life. I have some friends that absolutely love shoes, and they have tons and tons of shoes and tons of purses, and they always laugh with me. And they say, Michelle, I see you carrying the same purse I do. I say, I buy 1 purse a year, and I carry that purse for the whole year. Kind of like earrings. I'm just really simple like that. And also think about the papers. My staff always laughs, because they would tend to hold on to paper longer because they were going to give it to me. I'm going to typically scan it in, save it in a document, and then I'm going to shred it. And it used to just absolutely drive them crazy, but they've gotten a lot better at that. What about the thoughts you're having? I should, I wish that was, I need to, I hate that. And whenever you're saying the word I dislike or hate, or it drags me down, really pay attention to those words, and with that space, think, gosh, maybe if I don't like that couch, or I don't like that. I know at our lake house we have a love seat that needs to be replaced, and we've decided that we're going to get it replaced this year, because it's a negative energy for us every time we go down there. So it's something I'm actually working on even tonight. All right, and think about the emotions that clutter you. Past relationships. So many times, what's that saying? When you have anxiety, you're thinking about the future. When you have depression, you're thinking about the past. And so the best thing to do is to live in the present. And so when you're thinking about relationships, how things went or didn't go, I know as I just made this turn in my 50th year, I started thinking about what are a few things I would have changed, and how do I let those go forever as I was going into this new decade. And I thought about some of the mistakes I've made, some of the decisions, some of the ways I handled maybe having an employee leave, or a conversation with a friend. But you have to let it go, because it kind of just holds your heart hostage and bondage. Also, too, maybe missed goals. I know a lot of people say, gosh, are you living the dreams? Are you living your life where you thought you would be at 40, 50, 30? Whatever, I went backwards, didn't I? 30, 40, 50, or 60. And how do you move on without having regrets about the past? There's also the pain and sadness, and of maybe the way you were raised, or something your mother or father or sibling did to you. How do we learn to really release the past so that it doesn't hold us bondage for the rest of our life? It's who you are. How do you continue to be your best self on a day-to-day basis? And then things that also debit you are going to be, the things in your environment, the things that remind you of your past. Once again, I've said I've kind of been a minimalist. I've kept a handful of cards my entire life, and the ones that have really just helped shift me at key points. Other than that, I've kind of let most of that stuff go. Some days I really wish I could go back through it, but that's very rare. I like the ability to not have all that stuff weighing around me. And I also work with clients who are, I got a client right now, as a matter of fact, parents have lived in the same home for a couple decades. I don't know if it's 2 or 3. And as they're shifting their health and getting ready to move to a smaller place with some assisted living, it's just the anxiousness and anxiety that their children are having going through all their stuff. So if you struggle to get rid of stuff, you might think about getting your kids or your loved ones to come over that may have to do it in case something crazy happens now, and so that things can be transferred the way you'd like them to be transferred. We can't take any of it with us. I've not seen anybody be able to take those things with them. So just remember that. It'll free your heart. So great things to do to credit, once again, debit and credit. How do we continue to add credit to our health account? Not where you're having $1 million or 1 million credits over here, but you don't have to necessarily have a big credit debit gap like this, but it definitely needs to be more credits and debits, because I want to encourage you to live life. And I'll tell you how I'm doing some of the ways I'm debiting my account on a regular basis, but I'm just continuing to add more credits in. In case you don't know, my undergrad's in accounting, and so I have a little bit of a numbers mind. And so that's why I like to use the credit and debits analogy. So things that help credit your account, you can look at that old picture that we had up of a cluttered closet, and then maybe an uncluttered closet, and maybe be able to find what you want to find. For me, we have a rule in my house, and we break it quite often, but we hit it a lot of times. If we have 6 new pairs of socks come in, 6 old pairs of socks go out. If we have a new pair of jeans come in, an old pair of jeans comes out. And so that really helps us stay organized. Like I said, it helps me because I really don't like to have a lot of stuff. If you know me well, even having a black t-shirt right now, me and Eddie Bauer, we have a love affair about twice a year. I go get some new white and black t-shirts, and then I do that twice a year, and then I give the rest of them away. And it's pretty darn simple. It's almost too simple for a lot of people. I know I need a little more color in my life, but this makes it really easy. And can keep objects that are important to you. And so as you go through your space, and think about what fills you up energetically. So right in this moment, close your eyes and think about a time when you just were so full that you just were radiating good, peaceful energy, and everybody around you just was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And they just wanted to do what you were doing. So think about that, whether it's having a clean car, having a great yard, having your desk all cleaned up, whether it's having a bedroom that is really peaceful. We talked about how peaceful your bedroom should be and how you should like it in our 21-day sleep challenge. So think about those feelings you have. And that's what I want you to create. I want you to be able to create a feeling of fullness so that as you're walking through life, that you're continuing to give from your overflow and you're not giving from the core essence of who you are. That's the feeling that we want to try to get while we're working on freeing your space. And there's ways to enhance your space, creating openness. I know most people love to walk into an open living space, and that's a great idea. Adding the proper light, whether it's, I know nothing about lighting. I just know what lighting I don't like, which is usually for fluorescent lights. I can walk into a room, especially in my own space at the office, and we have just a few fluorescent lights in my office in our big classroom. And we also have the can lights and some, I guess they're called sconces on the wall. And I tend to almost always turn off the fluorescent lights and then turn those other lights on because it just feels more, more in harmony with my spirit. Think about the scent you have and ways that you could create nice smells of freshness. I also love having fresh flowers around, and whether they're out in my yard or on my kitchen table. I like living things. Living plants are also awesome. And it's just nice to have, I don't know, I love having a clean space. There's nothing like coming home on a Friday to me with clean sheets, clean dogs, and a clean house. I absolutely love that, and I'm guessing you do too. Oh, and I also love having a clean car. I'm going to tell you, almost every week I make sure my car's clean. I'm ready to go for the week, full tank of gas, so that it's not something that I have to think about midweek in the middle of a crazy week. Having items in good repair. You know, when you have that pair of pants that you absolutely love and there's a button that's not working on that, how can you make sure you get the good button on it, or polish your shoes? I just want you to think about how you feel when you have less clutter. You know, when you get a chance. I think some people move often because it forces them to get rid of clutter. I moved a lot as a kid, so I want to tell you, I know that it helped me become more of a minimalist. But I did live in the country for a couple decades, and it was freeing to kind of have to shift again and really be mindful and think about what I'm keeping. Recently, like I said, I moved into this new house, and we had a storage unit for some x-rays from Your Wellness Connection and a few other boxes. And it was so freeing in December to say, you know what, I no longer need a storage space. And I just think about how much people store that they never see. And so if you're one of these people that have a great storage space, it might be something to be thinking about as well. So start small. I know it can be overwhelming. Like I said, I have to take a deep breath. For some of you that are having a panic attack thinking, oh my gosh, I got so much to do. On your space, we're going to talk about your body and your mind next, but thinking about your space, set a time limit. What if you just took 10 or 15 minutes every day the next month? How would you start to be able to clean some things out? It could be just your silverware drawer, or it could be just your shoes. I know last year I was working with a client who was really struggling with this. And I said, you know, how about this weekend you just tackle your shirts? And so they did that. And the next weekend we tackled their pants. And the next weekend we tackled their shoes. And all of a sudden they were starting to feel better and better. So try to think about, you might even actually take a picture before and after and just say, here is before, and I spent 10 or 15 minutes, and here's afterward. And how do you feel? Do you feel more open and more alive and more vibrant? That's the whole thing. We only get one life, as my friend Sonia says, at this moment, one life in this this body right here. So how do we live it to the fullest without being dragged down, whether it's from our stuff or our thoughts or our body? So really kind of pay attention to that. Speaking of body, let's talk about that, because many of you here are struggling with some health challenges, and there's so much noise out there about what to do. And I am the queen of simple. Remember, wellness on a shoestring, not to be confused with wellness on the cheap, but it's how do we do the basic habits? It's kind of like if you're in Kansas City right now or around the country, how are you not excited about the Kansas City Royals? And part of it is they've kind of kept it simple. They're having fun playing. They're doing the basics. So let's go back to the basics with taking care of your body. Your body's energy. Like I said, I can feel it when I'm around you. You can probably, if you're tuning in, you can feel it too when you touch somebody's hands, or you can see it in their eyes or in their smile. So what can you do to really boost your own energy so that you're not taking from the very, when I say core, I mean kind of the adrenals. And when I say adrenal glands, what does that really mean? We have this gas tank. And we have all these different gauges, kind of like a car, for this human car that many times we're not paying attention to. And so how do we give our body the right fuel so that we will be able to drive this car a long time. I don't know about you. I don't care whether I live to be 69, 79, or 89. I want to be able to be active mentally and physically. And so I know that in order to have that happen, I've got to put the OIMF, the odds in my favor. And the way I do that is by taking care of my body. So there's ways to do that by being mindful about what you're putting in. I'm going to tell you, I am not perfect on this category. I'm working at it. I get a little better each year. I'm tons better than I was when I was 30. Better than I was when I was 40, and not as good as going to be when I'm 60. So I look at the way your food's planted, it's fertilized, what kind of preservatives are in it, how's it processed, stored, packaged, shelved, all things to be thinking about as you're thinking about the debits and credits and things you can do. Other debits you have is fast food. I have to tell you, recently I went to a family wedding. This is in the last 2 weeks, and I had not been through a McDonald's in so long, or a fast food place. But we were at a family wedding where there was absolutely nothing to eat. That was on my dairy-free, gluten-free lifestyle. So I have to tell you, I had to stop at a McDonald's. Was it McDonald's? I think it was. And got a hamburger with just some lettuce. And I want to tell you, it was so hard. I was thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. But I made that decision. So I'm going to tell you, yes, I know you can hang up now. I had to do it. So just continue to be mindful about that. I debited that day, but I also credited in many other ways. Energy drinks, soda. I can't believe sometimes, and this is no judgment if you're drinking soda, if people really knew what was in the soda. It's not just the sugars and the sweeteners that cause you to eat more. It causes your brain to function differently. It's also the phosphorus that's really hard on your bones. And we're having an osteoporosis epidemic. And so be extremely mindful about the sodas you're drinking and how can you really minimize, and I would say eliminate them from your diet. Candy. What is that movie? If you haven't seen it, it's called Fed Up. It's on Netflix right now. Sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. Hear that again. Sugar, 8 times more addictive than cocaine. We have been kind of sold out between possibly some of the industries. So be super mindful about the sugar you're putting in your body. Candy is one way to do it. I'm going to tell you, I love a good chocolate sea salt almond bar as anybody else, but I have to be mindful of it. I'm doing that too often. It's really going to put a major debit in my account. So other ways, air pollution. I was just listening to somebody, I wanted to say, I can't remember who, a podcast, talking about air pollution, how it's really hard on us. And I know it's hard when you're out walking around. I can tell, even this time of year, as I'm walking my neighborhood, I can tell when they've put chemicals on the lawn because I'm so tuned in to the different smells. And I'll sometimes try to hold my breath when there's a diesel car driving by. So just the little things like that, the toxins in our environment, the cleaning supplies. If you come to my house, it's not perfect, but I'm continuing to be mindful about the cleaning supplies. I love my friends over at Indigo Wild. I think they've done a great job sharing some of these tools with us and for us. Other ways. Oh, there's my dog Skylar saying hello to you. So I apologize about that. Thinking about other ways you can cause debits to your body without being OCD and getting so fearful. Just be mindful and say, oh gosh, what's the next thing I can do? I know I'm continuing to work on water. I think I have pretty well mastered soaps, lotion, shampoos. I've taken it up a notch the last few years. I'm going to take it another notch this next couple of years. Sunscreen, skincare, you can see all the makeup I have. I think I've kind of mastered that one. My mother taught me not to, I guess she never taught me to or not wear makeup. So just something that I got fortunate about. Petroleum products, being mindful. Petroleum's, of course, comes from oil. There's some that try to do it really, really clean, but just continue to be mindful about those products you're using as well. Okay, so you can see right here, I have a few highlights, the all or none. I have to tell you, I've not given up the highlights yet. I am mindful about any of the food coloring that's in my supplements, that could be in supplements or could be in any of the skin lotions I'm using. However, just be mindful of these products. As you think about the body and the toxicities, the more you're dealing with a health crisis, you're going to have to be more mindful. In my case, I'm fortunate. I'm dealing with some things, but nothing too extreme. And so I'm continuing to weed them out before my body gives me a huge wake-up call. So one of these days, I will quit highlighting my hair. I've just not done it yet. So once again, I'm not living that all or none world yet. Looking at your cleaning supplies, detergents. Like I said, I love Indigo Wild's laundry soap and some of their simple cleaning supplies. Just maybe some good soap and things like that. So think about ways you can credit your body. Once again, continue to be mindful of when you look at the back of a food product or a supplement, can you pronounce everything that's in there? And are there fewer ingredients? I'm really working hard at whole food. I love the Whole30 program. Try to live my life that way 80% of the time, really eating a lot of whole food. And it is a challenge even for me. So how could you really tune in to see how you feel with this and be extremely mindful? When I say tune into how you feel, it's interesting. I was at lunch with a friend today, and I kept watching him clear his throat. And he was talking about minimizing dairy and how much a struggle it's been for him. And I said, I wonder if that clearing your throat would change. And I said, do you even notice you're clearing your throat? And he said, I don't even notice. And so I think that was insightful. So you might even ask your friends and your loved one, your significant other, to say, what do you notice? And do you notice me sneezing or coughing or breathing heavy? What are some things I could do to tune into how you feel? I think it's a slippery slope as you start thinking about the type of food you're eating and also the medications. I was with a patient earlier this week, and he started out on one medication. Now he's on 5. And so just be extremely mindful that when you find yourself needing to be medicated, ask yourself, gosh, am I doing everything I can do to try to avoid adding in medications to my diet and lifestyle? Some ways to do that. Once again, I love the Whole30. Eat whole foods as much as possible, organic if possible, lots of fiber. And I'm not talking about Fiber One cereal. I'm talking about the fibers you get through fruits and vegetables, preferably more vegetables and fruits to kind of manage that blood sugar. And really limit your food additives. And once again, continue to pay attention to the pharmaceutical and over-the-counter drugs. I'm not saying never do it, but be mindful of it. I do believe it's a slippery slope, and it should be kind of the last resort. That's one reason why I love being a chiropractor. Our medicine started based on the whole philosophy that thoughts, traumas, and toxins can cause your nervous system to go out of haywire. When your nervous system is not working right, it's going to throw out all your other systems. And so we always say, take care of the nervous system through chiropractic care, through sleep, posture, through movement, through the right chemistry and the right thoughts. And if that doesn't work, last resort, or if you have a major trauma, yes, I did take only 14 Tylenol, hydrocodone when I got injured on that bike accident. And I just wanted to get away from that as soon as possible because I knew it could be a slippery slope. All right. Detoxify. Create space and energy flow. Here's some things to think about when you start hearing the word detoxify. I think about food as friends and enemies. I don't know about you. I've got friends that lift me up. I've got friends that kind of are neutral, and I've got friends that take me down. So let me say that again. When I'm with certain friends, I feel brought more back to life. I feel really refueled and recharged, and I'm like ready to take on the world. And then I have friends that it's just neutral. It's a peaceful exchange. I don't feel like I have head trash when I'm with when I leave them. I don't feel like I need to go conquer the world either when I leave them. But I do have some friends too that when I'm with them, and I try to minimize these relationships where I feel like I'm never good enough, and all these old patterns start coming up. So food is like that. I always say, think about your food like friends. And I say there's 7 common foods that cause issues with people: dairy, wheat, corn. Let me start again. Dairy, wheat, corn, soy, eggs, peanuts. 6, sugar. And so in your case, you might say, gosh, let me put those all aside for whether it's 5 days, 21 days, 6 months, will depend on where you're at in your health journey, how far you are in bankruptcy, to see how you feel. Food should lift you up, and it should at least make you feel neutral, not worse. And it should also lift you up. Let me get a drink here. Hang tight. So think about that. And so when I wake up in the morning, if I say, gosh, I'm not feeling so great, or I have a little bit of congestion or a headache, or I feel more stiff and sore, I'll say, gosh, Michelle, what did you have to eat yesterday? Who were you around? What kind of thoughts are you having? Those are some things I do. Okay, other things you can do, exercise. Of course, if you haven't heard, exercise is good for you. And it could be as simple as if you're doing nothing, getting up and walking around the block. It's gorgeous right now, for sure in the Midwest. I'm not sure what city you're in, but we've gone from being kind of that, I call it Johnson County brown. We've kind of gone from that beige brown look to everything is colorful and lots of green. And so the more colors you put in your body, the healthier you're going to feel. Same with getting out and moving and enjoying that. Of course, chiropractic. I don't talk about chiropractic near as much, but I want you to know I am a chiropractic diehard. I get adjusted pretty much every week right now, a couple times a week, healing from my accident. A lot of people don't understand that. There's about 100 different techniques. So there's many ways to get adjusted. But I really believe in taking care of your nervous system. Once again, shame on me for not telling you how much I think chiropractic is important. Getting body work, acupuncture is also awesome. Annual physicals, and I think the annual physicals, you've got to find a doctor or a nurse practitioner that you really just believe in them and you love them, because they're part of your tribe. And I think it's a privilege to care for people. And so make sure that your doctors feel that way so that they can continue to help guide you and love you up as you go through this whole journey. We talk about clean eating. This slide I'm going to read to you because it's so important. A practice of eating whole foods that are nutrient dense and staying away from processed foods. That's kind of simple. So when you look at your plate, how much food's alive, how much food's dead? You need to have more alive food if you want to feel more alive. And so that's important. Of course, vegetables. I'd say if you look at it, I kind of think about placing foods in A, B, C, D, E. So for me, can I get a lot of vegetables? That's kind of when I look at my plate of food, can it be a lot of vegetables? I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm working at it every single day. Some days better than others. And then some fruits and some nuts, some good fats, avocado, along with the nuts, maybe the type of oil I'm using. Whole grains, that's kind of, it depends on where you're at. You've got to listen. I personally don't do well with whole grains. I'm not quite sure why. I'm trying to figure that out. So whole grains, beans prepared appropriately, and then some type of protein, and you got to listen to your body on that. And I've saved the best for last, and I really believe this for me in my own journey. Really controlling my headspace has been huge, and it's been the number one thing I've done for my health and well-being. And this is scary for some people because you think, gosh, do I have to pull back the old wounds? And think about it, just going in and you're just cleaning out the closet. I want to clean out what's inside me so that when I get squeezed, what that old saying, if you squeeze lemons, do you get lemonade, or do you squeeze lemons and get orange juice? There's a problem. So when I get squeezed and I'm stressed, can I come from kindness? Can I come from understanding? Can I come from grace? And so I saved your mind for last. You're doing great. Hang in there. We're on the last part of this. So your mind is, some of the dubbits are the way we continue to place judgments. I know I was walking with one of my best friends today. Absolutely love her. And sometimes we edit the experience, and instead of just being present and going with the flow. And so I think about the word harmony. Can I be in harmony and just enjoy the experience? It's kind of like thinking about who's taking out the trash this week. Okay, I took out last week, it's your turn this week. No, it's how can we create harmony? Because maybe my job in my house is to manage the finances. So I don't have to do near as much as taking out the trash. Doesn't mean I don't do it. It doesn't mean I don't have to do it. I just don't have to do it as often. So how can we create some harmony around that? Because the headspace, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, really keep us from being fully present and enjoying the moments. Some other ways we debit is, like I said, being around negative people. I've talked about people are either filling you up just like food, they're adding more life to your life, or they're keeping you neutral, or there's things that take you negative. So being around negative people, criticizing others, how do we continue to lift people up? What is that saying? If you can't say anything good about somebody, don't say anything at all. That self-talk, I have to tell you, you've heard me talk about the 5-letter F word. which stands for fraud. I think that's so common for people to think, I want to be congruent. I don't want to be a fraud. And so that's one reason why I love teaching Free Your Space. I think that if you would embody the concept of freeing your space and maybe even creating a mantra, like I said, I used the mantra simple and consistent for a few years. If it didn't make my life more simple and more consistent, I decided I didn't want to do it. My staff would laugh. They'd say, do you want to do this? And I'd say to Susie, does it make our life more simple? And she says, no. I said, no, then I don't want to do it. I know that seems extremely simple, but it really has worked for us over the last 3 years. As I look at paying attention to that voice inside my head that said, Michelle, change the way you're practicing. Change the way you're moving, change the way you're taking care of your body. There is absolutely no way I think I could have gotten through the last 9 months had I not been freeing my space on so many levels. The one I'm working on right now, to be totally transparent with you, is as I've shifted and I'm not working quite as much, I'm nervous. I'm nervous about what to do with that free time, so I just don't become one of them, where I have all my different TV shows I watch or whatever. So I'm just trying to be mindful about how I fill up that empty space, because that is my biggest fear right now. So I'll stay tuned. I'll tell you how that goes over the next 4 or 5 months as I really work at creating more white space for myself that I'm not filling up with stuff I have to do or with a TV show. And can I take time to read a good book? Or can I just take time to just hang out with my dogs? So it is one of the ways I'm working on adding credits to my life. Oh, the judgments about our emotions. You should be doing this, or I'm fine. You know what FINE stands for? Feelings inside not expressed. So you'll never hear me say I'm fine, because I don't want to just be feelings inside not expressed. I want to say what's really going on with me and how I'm kind of moving through life. And that's bad. I really work on that head trash. I want to tell you, I could do a lot of things. When you look on the spectrum of wellness people, and I know some people that are really living, they're doing so much exercise a day, they eat a really super clean diet, they take time to meditate. People always say to me, Michelle, do you meditate? Well, technically, I don't sit down and meditate the way people think I meditate. The way I meditate is I will try to pay attention to people and share a smile. Or if I'm driving and I'm at a stoplight, try to look at people. I'm not great at it all the time, because sometimes I'm looking at my phone to see what's going on. So I'm also working on that. So the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Note how you kind of feel inside on those shoulda, coulda, wouldas. It's typically not a very good feeling. Oh gosh, the committee. I don't know about you. I've got a committee. I should start naming them. The committee in my head that keeps me from being present. It's that judge. Oh, why did you say that way? Oh, you were not a great doctor today. That criticizing me. I could have written that better. I could have done this webinar better. I could have been more prepared. Just the evaluator. And really thinking about what makes up your committee, or who makes up your committee. We all have people that influenced our lives, and in positive ways and in negative ways. And how do we try to shift that and really understand the truth of who we are? I recently recorded a podcast that you'll get the chance to hear here in the next week. And I loved what the Small Change Challenge that he shared. And we'll see if you can maybe ding me if you catch who this is. But the Small Change Challenge in a few weeks was really the truth of who you are. So I want to tell you the truth of who you are is somebody magnificent that was created to be well and created to be happy and full of peace and joy. That takes work to get that way, but that's the truth. And so how do we start to really write down the truth of who we are and listen and believe the things people say about us? So who's making up your committee? How do you continue to live in the present that I shared with you a few minutes ago? When you have anxiety, you're living in the future. You're thinking so much about the future. There's my dog again, playing on some toy. So hey, say hi to Sunny here. And then you have thinking about the past of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. That's the depression. So how do we move more into the present and just be here right now? And like I said, my committee sometimes, the biggest one my committee says to me is, you're a fraud. Why would anybody want to listen to your webinar? Why would anyone want to do the 21-day challenge? Why would anybody want to follow your 50 quotes? I battle that dark side every day. I just continue. And then I'll battle it. And then what will happen is somebody will say to me, that one quote you posted, it really helped me. I had this happen last night. I was at a charity event and I introduced myself to a gal that was sitting at our table, and she goes, "Oh, I know who you are. I really loved your 50 quotes for your 50th birthday." And I thought, wow, okay, stay focused, stay on the path, because there's starfish out there. And if I can give you one word that's going to help you feel more joy today, or have you change one habit, maybe where you have an apple today instead of that cookie, and you eliminate batter, then I've done my job today. I need to quit thinking about what I did right or wrong in the past and thinking about the stuff to do in the future. So seeing the positive. I know my committee sometimes will talk about that all or nothing. And I told you, once again, you can see right here, I do have highlights. So I've not passed that whole chemical test yet. But I'm getting better all the time, and we'll see how long it takes. And the committee also talks about not being lovable. I want to tell you right now, there's so much of you that is lovable. Yes, there's those kind of parts of you that are not lovable, but let's fully embrace the things that are lovable and be really grateful for those, so that you could have more to be grateful for. I love that whole saying. If you want to be grateful for where you're going, you got to be grateful for where you're at right now. So kind of taking charge and addressing the committee and gaining awareness. Once again, you might want to just tune in. Oh, I hear you, but that's not really true. And sometimes for me, my bonus father, great guy, did so much for me raising up, but he also had a little bit of that OCD, and his OCD has served me in many ways about not giving up on a patient or trying to dig a little bit deeper. But on the other side, it has been a pain in my BUTT as well, because it can make me a little bit crazy and a little bit too like dog on a bone. And so I have to really try to manage some of those patterns and see how I value it. And like I said, I love that saying from my guest coming up in a few weeks. What's the truth of who you are, and how can you really affirm that? So identify your real voice by becoming present. And the presence is such a big word right now. And how do we do more of that? And I'm more present when I'm not worried about having a stomach ache or a pain in my pelvis or a headache. And so that's why it's so important to look at it from a mind, body, spirit perspective. Because if your body's constantly talking to you, it's keeping you just spun up. And so that's why I want you to really consider doing something like a Whole30 plan, or getting a coach to help you really free your body up so that you could be who you're designed to be. There's things that give your mind credits. I shared on my podcast on April, I think 6th, about the Hoffman process. I did that process when I was 31. You can do the math, 31, 50, 19 years ago. It's so hard to believe, when I was having a meltdown. And so I had to go and empty out my insides. That was not really the truth of who I was. It was just stuff I'd been storing in there. So I emptied that out and started looking at it and go, oh, you know what? That works for me. That works for me. That doesn't work for me. And so how I could start to create a new headspace, a new heart space. So that'd be full of more love, kindness, and really more full of more joy. And so those are things to look at doing. So if you're having a lot of headspace trouble, you might consider checking out that podcast on April 6th with Raz Ingrassi, talking about the Hoffman process. And they gave away their pathway to personal freedom and love that helps you look at some of those patterns. Remember that we have feelings. We're feeling beings. And how do we really come from a place of honoring our feelings and what helps us fill our bucket up? I'm still working at this. I kind of have the love and kindness, and my feelings, I don't have a ton of spectrum. I'm working at it, but I really just say for me is, does this help me become more kind to myself and have more grace? Because I feel like if I could be more kind and more graceful with myself, I could teach other people how to have a life of kindness and grace. So freeing yourself from that talk, like I said, the pathway to personal freedom and love helped me a lot. Creating a space for something new and moving forward, we got to empty ourselves out so that we can put in more of those good thoughts. I don't know about you, you've got to look for positive role models and mentors that are living the life that you want to live, and really ask them, can you spend time with me so that I can really start to find those, because they're in you. They just been buried. So how do we find more of the emotional freedom that we want to do? A couple ways to do it is set some boundaries. I know right now we're in a time of yes. My good friend John O'Leary, one of the things he says is just say yes. And Sonda Rhimes, who's a Hollywood writer, producer, just had her book come out that just says yes and how a year of yes changed your life. I want to say that no is also important. I think on a day-to-day basis, the biggest decision I make is the right yeses and the right nos. The right yes is to what I'm going to add to my body to eat, the right vitamins I'm going to add, the right no's to maybe take an appointment, or how could I, instead of making it an hour appointment, could I make it a 10-minute appointment to answer somebody's question? And how do you really show up for people? The other part is really owning 100% of your space, your mind, your thoughts, and not somebody else's. You know, what do you say? We've got, it's a 50-50 relationship, but I've got 100% responsibility for my 50%. So being reminded of how to really show up in a relationship, which we're not really modeled, really, especially in a time where a lot of our generations of these baby boomers, you know, we were out working and not really in a relationship and trying to figure out how do we really have friends and how do you develop a friendship and what do you really talk about that's not superficial, but it's not so deep and heavy that you're like, oh man, that's a drag to be around that person. So freeing your space. So release the clutter and in your environment, body, mind, and spirit. Think about when you put your head down on your pillow tonight, what are ways I've credited my health today from all perspectives? And what are ways I've debited? Like I said, I want you to have fun. I love French fries. I love chocolate. I have a cocktail occasionally. You know, I'm not perfect. I'm just continuing on this course, getting better every day. I doubt that I will ever give all those up. God forbid I have something crazy happen to me where I have to. But how can I continue to add more credits in? I just want to make sure that when I get to that next phase of my life, like I said, whether it's 65, 69, 79, whatever age, that I'm able to do the things I want to do because I paid attention now. It's kind of just like saving money. If you want to really, just think about your health like saving money, and that's a whole nother conversation, but continue to add some to your health account. So we have a Free Your Space program, a 21-day challenge. I think you'll really love it. You'll get a couple nuggets out there that will help you shift. It takes time to free your space. Like I said, I've been working on it 36 months. And if you knew all the positive things that have happened to me the last 36 months and how much more freeing my life is, you would be totally shocked. And it started with me just by making that one decision. Here I go, the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And sometimes I pinch myself at how lucky I am to be surrounded by amazing people, whether it's professional people or it's my friends, my business people, my coworkers. It's just, and then more shows up because I've created space for that. So we'd love for you to continue. We'd love for you to consider, my team and I would love for you to consider joining us on this 21-day Free Your Space program. What you're going to get in that is every day in your inbox, like you need one more thing. So I have been deleting things that A, I never signed up for, or B, that just I maybe outgrew because I've changed. But you'll get something in your inbox that'll give you just a little tip that will help you start to free your space. It'll have a message from me and an assignment to help you clear your home, your heart. Your heart's really important in your mind. Inside the emails, you will learn about detoxing, mindfulness, money, clutter, monkey mind, head trash, your calendar. Like I said, that's what I'm working on right now. And of course, your relationships. What's investment? $21, 21 days. So $1 a day. So maybe instead of getting a mocha, you just get black coffee, or whatever they call that at Starbucks. And so that'll save you $1 or $2 a day. Maybe $1 can go into savings and $1 can go into freeing your space. That's right, just $1 a day. If you'd like to learn more, go to my website, drmichellrobin.com/free-your-space. Thanks for spending time with me. I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. If there's any way I can assist you, give me a shout on Facebook or send me an email, and I will do what I can to help you at the same time be mindful that I will not sacrifice my own health, because I want to come from a place of being so full that you, that it doesn't take away my own health. And that's what I feel about this new journey I'm on. So blessings to you. Have an awesome day.